Sex, porn, love addiction is all about self-soothing to manage your emotions. It got set up back in the childhood development years. It's just not about sex. It's not about porn. It's all about the repeated use has set up the physiology to crave those dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, self-manufactured drugs in the body. It's impacting women, men, children aged 10 to 75 across all the age ranges, the sexes, the cultures, the professions. It increased exponentially during COVID lockdown and impacting so many lives. The Kairos Center has created the first online comprehensive sex, porn, love addiction. It's a video on demand recovery program which you can access from anywhere in the world and begin to see identifiable changes just within 6 weeks of beginning this weekly program. Kairos means your appointed time. Isn't it your time to reclaim your life? Bring color back to life without shame. Click the link below and begin your journey. You owe it to yourself and to others. In this session, we're going to look at the 3 circles exercise. That's what this particular one is called. What we are doing in this particular session is identifying your sobriety. It's not for me or indeed anybody else to identify what should be contained in your sobriety. What is the full extent of your sobriety? You see, there is a difference between sex addiction sobriety and, let's say, alcohol addiction sobriety. If you consider the fact that with alcohol, with drugs, it's a cessation, a stopping, a discontinuation of all use of alcohol, of drugs. But with sex, with porn addiction, particularly the sexual side, it isn't so much that you are going to be stopping all sexual outlets, because many clients, of course, are in a partnered relationship, in a sexual relationship with somebody else. And so it's important that your brain is able to know what sexual activities are not acceptable in your sobriety and which ones are acceptable. And so we call it the 3 circles exercise. In a sense, it's the document which you'll have in front of you. It looks like circles, but it doesn't matter so much how you draw the circles. What you're going to do is to draw a circle to the left on a large A4 sheet of paper, and then you're going to draw a second circle to the right, indeed overlapping the other one. You will see it on the sheet that I will provide, but it's a bit like the Olympic rings where you've got intersections of the circles overlapping each other, so that to the space in the circle to the left, we call that the okay behaviours. And what you're actually going to do is to write in that space all of the sexual outlet behaviours which are going to be acceptable to you during your sobriety. Whatever those sexual activities may be, list as many as possible. If you're in a partnered relationship, don't just put sex with my partner, actually list the different activities. I often joke to my clients when I see them face to face or online, and I talk about the fact that if they have, let's say, a dungeon underneath the house with whips and all sorts of things, I might have something to say as a contribution into their sobriety, where they've decided using the dungeon, the whips, and the gadgets, etc., may not be the best thing to be doing at this point where they are working towards sobriety. And we could talk about that. So the point is, in the okay behaviour part of the circle, list there all of the activities, including with a female partner, that will be acceptable And that's something then for the therapist to discuss with you as to whether there may be some problems in continuing to do certain types of activities. We then look to the circle to the right, and the circle to the right has the not okay behaviours. And really important there, what you are doing is actually identifying all of the acting out behaviours that you have ever done in the past. You want to list all of them in that portion of the circle. It's really important that you also identify perhaps the fantasy sexual behaviours that you have in mind but you've never done. Put them down so that your brain recognises that these are no longer going to be acceptable during your sobriety period. Really important that you list all of them. Now, so often past clients have omitted to list in the not okay behaviours what I call the step 1 to 5 acting out behaviours, the objectification, the letting go of control over one's eyes and objectifying the other person's body that they have noticed in a public place, and that image that has gone into their eyes potentially becomes the fantasy image, and it's throughout the day, throughout the next few days, those images, those objectified images, can become the fantasy that creates a trickle feed of arousal, as I call it, and there will therefore be arousal taking place, albeit at low levels, where some chemicals, the potent chemicals, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, are actually being secreted into the body at low levels, so that it is no surprise days or hours later when the individual feels like acting out, like turning on, viewing porn, masturbating. And so it's really important that we challenge the activities much early on, the eyes, the objectifying, the fantasy. Put down all of the different acting out behaviours, masturbation, if that is to be included in the not okay behaviour. That's something we could talk about, therapist to client, later on. But the things like webcam use, the downloading, the sexting, exhibitionist, voyeuristic behaviours, all of the acting out behaviours that are no longer going to be acceptable in the sobriety are to be listed there. And then in the overlapping, where the circles have overlapped, we call that portion the IFFY area. In the IFFY area, you are listing the activities, sexual activities, which you're actually not entirely sure whether they are going to be acceptable or not acceptable in your sobriety. And it's really very important that you identify and put them there. I always talk about brainstorming initially. By brainstorming, I mean just put down the okay behaviours as they quickly come into your mind, the not okay behaviours as they come into your mind, and the iffy behaviours. Just literally list them straight away, and then take some time to reflect on all that you have written.